Hello. First of all, let me welcome you to my YouTube channel and to this particular video. Please click like and support my YouTube channel. The date is March the 27th, 2022. If you have watched any of my YouTube videos, you know that I'm a gay man. As of this date, I am 52 years old. My life as a young man was very difficult. From the age of 7, I had to deal with a great deal of abuse, from words, spit, punches, kicks, accusations as I got older. When I tried to report it to the teachers and got my mother involved, and she went to the schools and that, different schools that I had attended over time throughout my school years, the principal would just ignore it or suggest that I was causing the problem. I would be told that it's all my fault, only I know what I'm doing. I'd be told that I'm staring at people. Well, I was staring at people because I'd realized they were staring at me, or that they were walking towards me and I didn't know if they were going to spit at me, scream at me, try to punch me, or just walk by me. As I got older, I learned from body language. You can usually figure out what's inside a person's mind. All of this abuse, and I said accusations, all designed to label me as an evil homosexual, suggesting that I was dangerous or should not be around children, as suggested by some people. Bottom line is, all this went on day after day, after week, after month, after year, into decade throughout my school years. Things improved when I went to college and throughout my life. Now, things have improved a great deal. Here in Canada, we have gay marriage and all of that. I want to go into a very sad case here concerning a 15-year-old young boy. This article was written on July the 6th of 2011. And now, of course, the date today is March the 27th, 2022. And that's quite a few years ago. 11 years ago, this July the 6th. But the terrible, terrible, raging thing about this case, and I use the word raging, is that this young man, who may have been trans or gay, whichever, it's hard to tell, he had just come out gay. And he started dressing effeminate, lipstick, eyebrow pencil, things like that. Even at one point wearing a dress to school. The other boys hated him for being who he was, hated him for being gay. It's an odd thing to see a boy wearing lipstick, eyeshadow, etc., etc. But one of these boys, here's this picture, you can see in his eyes there is something evil. And the type of evil I'm seeing here reminds me of what I had to deal with in life. I call it liquid evil, because people like this tend to inspire other crazy people who think along the line as they do. If we consider for a moment the expression, birds of the feather flock together, meaning people who think alike will want to hang around each other, become friends with each other, and support each other. He clearly is psychotic. No ands, no ifs, no buts. Now, this psychotic young man has a history of being abused, etc., etc. But lots of people are abused. People are sexually abused. People are beaten by their fathers, by their whole terrible things. But they don't go out and kill a kid that's gay. This is what somebody who's into white supremacist ideology is into, or into Nazi idealism get into. You understand? There's a mentality there, and I call it once again liquid evil. Now, the name of this murderer is Brandon McInerney, who once again in a computer class walked up behind this gay kid whose name was Larry King, put a gun to his head, back of his head, and pulled the trigger. You stop and think about what has to go through a human mind to do that. Think for a moment what you would have to be, what state of situation would you have to be in to do that? Well, I guess if someone broke into my home, threatened my loved ones, and I had a gun, and they had a weapon pointed at my family, then that would be different. I could walk up behind them and shoot them to save my family. I would have probably shot him in the back, better target. But the whole thing is, this young man, Brandon McInerney, shot this other boy, this gay kid, Larry King, in the back of the head. That's execution style. And the horrible thing here is, enough people living in the area feel sorry for the murderer, Brandon McInerney, ignoring the fact that the boy who was gay, Larry King, who was shot in the back of the head, killed. By the way, he didn't die immediately. He was crying and struggling to breathe. But enough people feel sorry for this Brandon McInerney. This is a prime example of how society completely ignores what happens to gay people, completely ignores it. Complains about pride marches, complains about gay marriage. If the situation was the KKK and white supremacists out murdering black kids and black people, shouting, and I'm going to say a word here, but I'm not saying it as a derogatory towards people, but as an example of the hatred that exists. If they were standing there yelling, "Kill the niggers!" people would be up in arms. Both of these kids, by the way, are white. If instead the gay boy was a black kid and this white kid here had shot him in the back and said, "I was killing a nigger," the legal system would have treated him differently. People in the neighborhood would have taken it differently. But because it was a gay boy, a gay child, it's taken differently. Oh, it's against the Bible to be gay. Oh, what's wrong with people? Haven't we evolved to a point now? I know this was back in 2011, 11 years ago, and a lot of things have changed. I can tell you that from experience, from what I no longer have to go through, but I still have to deal with some things. I've been threatened on buses, I've been attacked by people, and the word faggot always is there. But if I was instead a black person and they're yelling, "Nigger, nigger," people would be up in arms. But because they yell faggot, doesn't mean anything. Okay, I'm going to read from the article here. The murder trial has begun for Brandon McInerney, a high school student from Oxnard, California, who 3 years ago walked into computer class, sat behind openly gay classmate Larry King, and shot him twice in the back of the head. Opening statements from both sides offer new details about that senseless and horrible case. The prosecutor, Maeve Fox, began with a 19-minute slide presentation outlining her case. She described King, who was 15 at the time of his murder, as a small and very effeminate boy shunned by his male classmates, who subjected him to years of merciless bullying. Remember me saying day after day, after week, after month, after year, into decade? Well, I went through that. And if you think you don't have PTSD after that, let's just say, even now it's hard to trust some people. It's hard. Anyway, back to the story. After he was removed from his home and placed in a shelter, his attitude changed. He became more confident in school and started wearing high-heel boots, makeup, and jewelry, along with his uniform. School rules did not prohibit this. Larry King, for the first time in his life, wasn't taking it anymore. Fox said, he started to give people what I prefer to call the proverbial chin, only it was more profane. This is from the article, folks. Okay, let's get back to this. McInerney, a tall and muscular 14-year-old with a white supremacist leanings, according to the prosecution, regularly hurled gay slurs at King on February 11, 2008. They clashed and McInerney said he was going to shoot King. Immediately after class, McInerney and King exchanged words once more. She said King turned to McInerney and said mockingly, "I love you, baby." Well, folks, he might have just been trying to be peaceful and being a little sarcastic. Who would not in that situation when day after week after month, same thing all over, same lot, same accusations, same kinds of things, punches, kicks, spits, the whole thing all over. Of course you're going to react. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Fox said McInerney then tried to recruit his friends to jump King. She said when that was unsuccessful, good for them, McInerney made his own plan. Oh God, the gun. The next day, McInerney sat directly behind King in a computer lab. Okay, folks, he's sitting right directly behind the gay boy, sitting right directly behind him. Shortly after class started, he pulled out a .22 caliber gun and shot King twice in the back of the head. McInerney's defense attorney, Scott Wilpert opened with a 30-minute statement that focused on both boys. Troubled backgrounds. Oh, bullshit. He said McInerney reached an emotional breaking point. What kind of a break point is that? To take a human life. After being sexually harassed. God, sexually harassed? He's a white supremacist. He's insane. He's crazy. Sexually harassed over an extended period of time by King. Oh, bullshit. In other words, the gay panic defense. What? So, if this was Hitler, what Hitler had said, oh, the Jew panic defense. That's why I did the Holocaust. Okay, let's get back to the thing, back to the story. He said the Nazi, oh God, hooey. Okay, he said the Nazi iconographic and copies of Hitler's speeches police found in his bedroom weren't there for any reason other than a World War II paper. Bullshit. He was writing for his history class. While Wilpert concealed that McInerney did shoot King to death, he maintained that it was not a hate crime. Bullshit. Then why did he shoot a gay kid if it's not a hate crime, Back to the story. He did this out of a heat of passion. And that is a voluntary manslaughter. Wilpert was later fined $500 for being in a contempt of court when he ignored the judge's orders not to question a police witness about his client's remorseful behavior following the shooting. Scott Wilpert, of course, folks, is this Brandon McInerney's lawyer. $500 for a life. McInerney, now 17, was 14 when he murdered King. He's being tried as an adult. Why the hell don't they just put him in an electric chair? Here is a video of Larry King's, well, it says here Lawrence King, maybe he went by the name of Lawrence. I've heard him being called Larry also, but nevertheless, this is one of Larry King's, the boy who was murdered, one of his teachers. I think you're going to understand the meaning of liquid evil. This woman just doesn't get it. I call it liquid evil. The Virgin Mary.
I had Larry as a student the previous year as a seventh grader.
Nice garden.
And I knew his inclination. He had discussed it with me.
Inclination?
When he asked me what to do about this situation, my response to him was nothing.
So deny who he is?
What to do about this situation is nothing. And to keep it private and to dwell
upon it?
Larry shouldn't have expressed himself so blatantly, openly transsexual.
Well, who else is he going to talk to?
He progressed day by day in his outward appearance as a girl. Any teacher with a grain of salt really said it's out of control.
It's out of control.
I do believe in a heaven and a hell. And I do believe Larry, honestly,
look at her upper lip.
Clue, the consequences of his actions. I relate to Brandon because I could see my own self being in that very same position. I don't know if I would have taken a gun.
She doesn't know if she would take a gun?
But a good swift kick in the butt.
Oh God, I had people do that to me when I was a kid. I kicked them in the testicles. And they stopped.
Larry had a special need. This individualized educational program, which is IEP, where there are behaviors that
they shoved him into special ed.
I was convinced that the kids would take it
Look
in
at
their
that
own
upper
hands
lip.
We
Upper
did
lip.
not. The Thursday before Larry was shot, I went into my principal and I said, if you don't physically come in there and do something to stop Larry's progression, the boys of the school are going to take him out behind the shed and beat him to death. After Larry's death, a gay pride rainbow group of about 1,500 people are marching down C Street right in front of our school. Now, who orchestrated that gay pride?
Oh, God, look at the way your mouth goes.
14 years of teaching there, never seen that. Never seen it in the city of Oxnard.
She's disgusting.
And right in front of our school?
Look at that.
What is that?
Wear your fingers up in
that.
that.
I have huge questions. Huge questions. The doodling that I saw in my kids' notebooks
doodling?
really very interesting. But the swastika, they would copy, and those who are artistically inclined, the whole Adolf Hitler with the mustache and the hand and the Heil.
You're kidding me.
Walking into class after being taught some of these things the very next day, it'd be perfectly normal. Heil.
You're kidding me. And she let them get away with it. My God. Okay, folks, I gotta say something here. She considers homosexuality, bisexuality, transgendered people, the whole LGBT plethora, to be a great sin. In fact, greater than what the Nazis were? Who the hell did the Holocaust? Over 10 million people died in the bloody Holocaust. Millions of Allied soldiers had to fight, lose their lives to stop this crazy man Adolf Hitler. Stormed the beaches of Normandy, watched their fellow soldiers die. Families lost entire generations of sons. If they were lucky, one survived and the brothers were gone. I'm gonna say it, this bitch would dare to compare LGBT people to the actions, the immoral actions of the Nazis. Where are her values? You know, folks, there's a lot of people who think just like this woman. And I do believe it is a form of insanity, what she has in her mind, in her head. And this woman is a school teacher. And you know, to top all of this off, when I was a kid, I remember teachers that she reminded me of. In other words, I had teachers very much like that. And I kind of knew there was something that they hated about me, and now I know why. As I've said in the beginning of this video, I was born in 1970, and you can figure out how old I am now. To see this kind of liquid evil still around. She put the blame on this gay kid when the blame was on the one who put the gun to the back of his head and murdered him. Here, I'm going to show you a photo right now. You see those two holes? That's where he was shot. That's the back of his head during an autopsy. And this woman, this teacher, said that she doesn't know if she would have used a gun herself. That tells you how deviant her mind is. That is liquid evil. Because these kinds of people will find others that think like they do. And they will trade their ideas and opinions about people like kids with Pokemon cards. And they'll say, you see that one over there? He's a fag. And you know this woman either said he's a fag or his inclination. That makes me sick inside. Evil can be very sublime. Nice garden, nice home. But she blames this poor gay boy for his own death. Oh, she doesn't know if she would have used a gun herself. But she would have kicked him in the rectum, in the bottom, and how many others just like her would have done that until he's so badly bruised, including the back of his legs, that he can't walk. Because that's what they do to LGBT people. Only in this case, he was killed by a 14-year-old Nazi. And it makes me wonder, is there a Nazi chapter in that area? I would be very surprised if there was not. And this stupid teacher, this woman, is blind to reality. If people ever wonder how Adolf Hitler was able to take over Germany prior to the Second World War, it's people like that woman, that teacher, that are blind. They don't know where the real evil is. It was right in front of her, including the ones that were doodling in their books with these Nazi symbols. And when they did the Sieg Heil, instead of punishing them, informing the parents, she ignored it, like it was just kids having fun. Brendan McInerney was sentenced to 21 years in prison. He had worked out a deal. Rather than spending the rest of his life in prison, be put to death. The first part of Brendan McInerney's sentence was spent in juvenile detention. when he turned 18, he was sent to an adult facility. He is currently incarcerated at the California Correctional Center. As of 2022, he is 28 years old. He committed the murder, the execution-style shooting of Larry King, also known as Lawrence King, at the age of 14. That was 14 years ago. In other words, he has lived for 13 years after the murder. He will be eligible for parole in the year 2025. His sentence will be done in 2032. That means he would have lived 23 years after he committed the brutal murder of Larry King. Regardless if he is given parole, which goddamn well I hope they don't, we need to keep in mind that there are lots of gangs in these prisons. White supremacists, neo-Nazis, his favorite kind. Will he simply become a more dedicated Nazi with SWAT-C stickers all over his body? Perhaps that dumb bitch of a teacher, if she's still around, will sponsor him when he gets out of prison for early parole and let him live in her house. I know I'm being sarcastic here. Bottom line here is Brendan McInerney, a brutal murderer, will be exposed to lots of neo-Nazi propaganda, and more to the point, he will enjoy it, because they are his people. They are just like him. There is always a chance that reality may kick in, and he'll decide to live a good life. I can think of lots of people that treated me very, very, very badly, and claim they're sorry. They didn't realize, they didn't understand. Well, I say a bullshitter is a bullshitter. They knew, they understood. Just like this Brendan McInerney. So Brendan McInerney has enjoyed all these extra years of life. We know where he is staying. Let's take a look at where Larry King, also known as Lawrence King, is currently staying. He is staying in a cemetery, Ivory Lawn Memorial Park and Funeral Home, Ventura County's only historical district cemetery. Let's take a look at the cemetery from above, looking down. Oh, he'll have lots of neighbors there, lots of neighbors to keep him company. All the gravestones and plaques are neatly arranged row by row, and there's a plaque at his gravesite. Our beloved son and brother Lawrence Forbes King, born January the 13th, 1993, died February 13th, 2008. That's a good picture of him. He that beneath in the sun hath everlasting life. John 3:16. 15 years of life. While this bastard son of a bitch murderer, Brendan McInerney, lives on. He will live for more than twice the lifespan that his victim will. He will have a chance to get out of prison, enjoy a life, get married, have sex, have children, little Nazis to salute him. God. I'm going to tell you something, folks. When I was asked to produce this video, I knew it was going to take me time. It was going to be a hard one. Today the date is July the 24th, 2022, and it's taken me quite a while to get this done. These people like Brendan McInerney have a deep-seated hatred for gays and LGBT people. I really do believe people like Brendan McInerney are actually sickened by us, because they look at us and all they can think is, that's not normal. And they'll rant and they'll scream and they'll go off. And a lot of them will inflict serious harm on LGBT people, both verbally and physically, and encourage others to commit acts of terrible indignancy, terrible violence, terrible hate. People like this Brendan McInerney, people who hate LGBT people in general, just continue their lives as if they didn't do anything wrong, as if they look at it and say, it happened a long time ago, I'm past it, I've moved on. Like, what about the people you've damaged? What about the people you hurt? What about the people you leave so psychologically damaged that they never form normal relationships? Because during the time when the human mind is developing and we're supposed to be socializing and learning social skills, instead LGBT people have to deal with idiots, dangerous people like this Brendan McInerney that harass them and threaten them and attack them every single day after week after month after year. And all that LGBT people learn about is how to defend themselves, how to react, how to recognize hostile body language. Because we know we gotta react to it, or we're gonna get badly hurt, and we're probably gonna get hell for it. But we have to defend ourselves. I look at this Lawrence King here, this My God, this kid, he didn't have a goddamn chance. He didn't do anything wrong. We all hear about people who are falsely accused and sent to prison for years, even decades, and they're totally innocent. They got the wrong person. Well, in this case, Lawrence King didn't do a damn thing wrong. And this, Brendan McInerney sentenced him to death and carried out that sentence himself, execution style. Why does Brendan McInerney get to have a life after this? Is he going to dedicate the rest of his life, this Brendan McInerney, to standing up for LGBT people? Is he going to do that? If he were to do that, I would have some respect for that. But he's still a murderer. And let me get the following very clear here. I'm not suggesting anybody should harm him, should go out and do anything to him when he gets out of prison. But I wouldn't want him living in my neighborhood. For A, he's a murderer. B, he's a Nazi. And most people know about the history of the Second World War and the Holocaust and what the Nazis were and what the Nazis did. And Brendan McInerney follows that ideology. And a part of the problem is that that damn teacher was too stupid to realize that she was just enabling him with her idiocy. Just, oh, enchilada, not important. Swazi, the swash sticker, the swash. It's not a swash sticker. It's a Swazi. Like, she laughed at it, like, oh, they'd say, the kids would say, Heil, Heil. Are you crazy, woman? Over 10 million people died in the Holocaust. How many gay people have died? How many gay people have died? Hung from trees, lit on fire, locked in prisons for the rest of their life because, oh well, non-standard sex is illegal. The goddamn missionary position is the only legal way. Well, I doubt that Lawrence King ever had the chance to have sex. I doubt it very much. He never got to appreciate that part of humanity. He never got that. Well, there you are, it's Brendan McInerney. First thing he's going to do when he gets out of prison, he's going to want to get laid. A part of me feels for this Brendan McInerney. I don't like seeing anybody suffer, but he did commit a murder, and I hate that. I hate him for that. And I would rather have seen him locked away for the rest of his existence. Better yet, they should have just given him the death penalty. Life is a journey, and I've learned the best thing to do when you really don't have an answer to something, or even if you do have an answer to the situation, regardless, look at it and say, what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson is the dangerous social acceptance says of society that allows for the abuse of innocent LGBT people and the support for a murderer who was a Nazi, and all of the circumstance that led for that opinion to come about in society. That's the lesson. Followed by, how do you change it? How do you prevent it from occurring again? Because it's all about the attitudes in society. And that bloody teacher and her Cathology, her idea of Cathology, that's a good example of the problem. Because she doesn't know if she would have used a gun, but she would have kicked him in the butt. Or maybe somebody should kick that woman in the butt so many times that she's bruised and her private parts are sore. She'll have a different attitude about life. I'm not calling for violence. I'm just saying, look, lots of people out there make statements and they don't think about what they're actually saying, what they're supporting. And that woman, that teacher, she's a big part of the problem. And the worst part is there have been a heck of a lot of murders of LGBT people, from kids being stabbed on their way home from school, kids being stabbed in front of schools, dying in the arms of his mother. There's been a lot. And schools acknowledging, finding out, oh well, we may have a bullying problem. I'll just leave you with this. One is Brendan McInerney, the other is Lawrence King. One has a life, and one had it stolen by a bullet from a gun in the hands of the one who is still living.